Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Note, and this review comes with a large content warning. And I would recommend that only professional, fully qualified music critics ever listen to the music of 100 Gecs. This is a review of the new 100 Gecs album, 10,000 Gecs. Imaginatively titled, their second album follows 1000 Gecs. From 2019, they fall into the genre of hyperpop, which is basically speeding up pop music and having it made by people that have never heard music before. They're from St. Louis, Missouri, and it's Dylan Brady and Laura Les, who are a duo. And their second album is something that could potentially cause you a great deal of possibly cancer, other kinds of terminal illness. It's not to be taken lightly. The first track, Dumbest Girl Alive, pretty much every song on this album, which lasts for about 14 minutes, is a slogan repeated over and over. The technical aspects of the album are immediately apparent. The incredibly heavy use of sidechain compression is extremely unpleasant and ugly. The compression overall is horrendous. I assume that this is in some way a parody. When I have heard 100 Gecs music before, I was mistakenly believing that it was a parody of 100 Gecs based on what they were described to me as sounding like, yet they actually do sound like a parody of themselves. I was lured into listening to this album by some particularly evil music critics who suggested that this wasn't in fact like previous 100 Gecs music, it was in fact a progression. This is a lie. There are virtually no musical elements on all of these tracks, most of which sound like a parody of emo in 2004. On the second track, 757, they make use of the Daft Punk aerodynamic vocoder. Not for the last time. It would make Daft Punk cry. It would make Daft Punk probably delete aerodynamic from their catalogue. Their timing across their tracks in relation to the frenetic beats and the vocals is perhaps artistic in that it isn't in time very often. It's like Sing Girl music from 2004, and particularly bad Sing Girl music. Another really strong element that comes up on track 3, Hollywood Baby. It sounds like Blink 182 in a food blender. But this is actually a real song. It actually has elements of an actual song on this one, and some horrifically gated drums, another awful part of their production. And it's amazing how this hyperpop, the most futuristic pop you can get, if you hear it done really well by someone like, I'm trying to think of someone that does it. Pink Panthers, her debut album, actually done brilliantly. It's amazing how dated this sounds. All of this sounds like Blink 182 era stuff. Track 4, Frog on the Floor. Even though you've been led into knowing that you're walking through a room of horrors, you aren't quite prepared for Frog on the Floor. Casio presets, sounding like someone playing in an empty nightclub in a really quiet part of Spain in 1982. One of the worst songs probably ever made. The vocals throughout this album are multi-tracked to death and yet still as weak as the reediest singer live, which is quite impressive. Track 5, Doritos and Fritos, where they managed to rhyme Doritos, Fritos and mosquitoes in one song. Avril Lavigne stuff here, musically an abortion, and as with any song here that stretches past 2 minutes, incredibly boring. 6, Billy Knows Jamie is a what seems to be aiming for Rage Against the Machine parody, but is more like Limp Bizkit parody. There's nothing future about any of this, and it's amazing that they can make 3 minutes sound as boring as they do. Track 7, $1 million, another one that just repeats the title all the way through, has less reason to exist than almost all songs in music. Track 8, The Most Wanted Person in the United States, actually sounds like an outtake of a skit from Beck's Odelay, making it the best song here. Track 9, I Got My Tooth Removed, just because they haven't hit on this particular musical horror yet. Ska Punk, another one that points to the era here of being late 90s and early 2000s. I don't really know how this is hyperpop, but Ska Punk, its own travesty against humankind. It's got a curiously decent bridge. I wonder whether they're talking about the price of dentistry in America, perhaps not. We get the aerodynamic vocoder out from Daft Punk again for Me, which is also Meme Me, which is the cleverest part of this album. This is like somebody pranking the world, getting a 2-year-old to draw some paintings, displaying them at a gallery and getting millions of dollars for them. Music critics trying to pretend that this is good and it's an acclaimed album is an offence against themselves. I still want to give 100 Gecs maximum credit for pranking and punking these idiots that don't know where they were born. It's not a crime against humanity, it's a crime against all species on Earth. They are laughing at us, and if they genuinely did come out and say that we were punking all of you, I would have so much respect for them. But at the moment I have to treat this as real music, and I have listened to it so that you don't have to. It could prove fatal. You might not get over listening to it, so I'm going to give 100 Gecs and their album 10,000 Gecs a rare -17 out of 10.